everybody. My name is Fiona. I'm the communications coordinator for SSCCC. With me today is Cassandra, our past president, and also Abba, our student Region 2 intern. Jessica, our director of outreach and communications, was not able to join us today, but we also have Dr. Julie Adams, our executive director.
All right, so talking a little bit about what the communications officer is expected to do. So here is a pretty comprehensive list of what you're expected to do, but one of the biggest parts of being a communications officer is creating and disseminating out the region newsletter. So we'll be going into more detail about the schematics of submitting the newsletter and what that will look like. But the main point of the communications officer is to really spearhead all social media and marketing initiatives for your respective region. So what that will look like is that means you'll be in charge of not only your region Instagram, but also making sure you're the one in charge of, all right, like it's going to be Club Rush season around this time of year. What can we do to get region so and so's name out there? How are we on the ground and using our social media to engage with our student body associations? That's the sort of mindset that a communications officer should be having. And that's something that we really want to keep in mind. Another thing that the communications officer is going to be in charge of is also going to be chairing the regional communications committee meeting. So this is going to be a committee that will be on the region level that you will be serving as a chair of. And what this committee will be tasked with is just helping support you as the communications officer in all communications and also social media and marketing efforts. So the recruitment for your regional communications committee will begin in the first delegate assembly that your regional affairs director will be holding. And that's another thing to be keeping in mind of as well. And then one last thing is as the communications officer, you will also be in charge of taking minutes for your meetings of both the executive board on the region level, as well as the delegate assemblies when you are meeting every month as well. We will be going into more detail about how to fill out these respective meeting minutes, but this is just a brief overview of what you're expected to do as a communications officer. Next slide. All right, so as a communications officer, you will also be serving as part of the region executive board. So what that means is not only will you be doing tasks that are directly assigned to you within your purview of communications officer, but you will also be asked to be serving as a general executive board member for your region. So here's a brief description of what each regional officer does on the executive board. It's really important for you all to know what each position does in your region. So that way, when a member comes up to you and asks a question, you'll be able to at least direct them to the right person. So say, for example, you're at a delegate assembly and a member asks you, like, hey, like, what are our legislative priorities, or who can I talk to for that? Because you have reviewed the regional officer job descriptions, you will know that the person to direct them to will be the legislative affairs director of your region. So doing a brief overview of what each officer does. The regional affairs director is in charge of leading the region on all general matters and hosting the region delegate assembly. The vice chair is in charge of completing the accountability and stipend reports and also serving as the right-hand man for the regional affairs director. The legislative affairs director coordinates all legislative matters for the region and also attends the statewide legislative affairs committee meetings. The treasurer is in charge of the regional budget and presents updates at delegate assemblies, as well as represents this region on the state level on the Region Finance and Fundraising Committee. And finally, of course, your job as communications officer is to create and distribute the regional newsletters, as well as attend the statewide communications committee meetings. And that's just, again, a brief overview of what you're expected to do. But with that, I'll be passing it over to Abba.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. We're going to briefly talk about minutes for a second. As a communications officer, you will be having to take minutes within your meetings. Um, Although some minutes you've probably seen are a little complex, they definitely should be clear and concise. We've given an example off to the side here that you can look at. And you want to make sure that you focus only on the key topics at hand and then write them to highlight the main discussion points as well. If you see the first one, it's a committee roundtable. So we have VP Hernandez discuss new policies, and you kind of talk about a brief overview of the policies that were discussed. And then lastly, you want to ensure that anyone reviewing it can easily grasp what was covered in the meeting. So let's say one of your officers unfortunately had to miss the meeting, they could go back on these minutes and kind of see an overview of what was spoken about in the meeting. So, and you will definitely have more support on writing minutes and kind of like understanding the structure of them in your first few meetings. But this is definitely something to keep in mind.
All right, so we're going to go over a little bit about what Brown Act and just the general key requirements of what Brown Act is. So, as you all may be aware from your respective student body association meetings, we are compliant with Brown Act. So, what that means is we have a certain set of rules and provisions to follow in order to ensure that all of our meetings are properly accessible to the public. So, just a couple of requirements is when you have a meeting agenda, it must be posted 72 hours in advance. And if it's a teleconferencing meeting, then all of your members' locations must be posted on the agenda. You also need to make sure that you post in a publicly accessible location and digitally on the website as well. And also make sure that all actions and votes are publicly reported. So that's where taking the minutes will come into place. So like Abba said, when you're taking minutes, you want to make sure it's clear and concise. And you also want to make sure that you make it very clear whether or not action was taken for every item. So if there was no action, you would simply state no action was taken. But if there was action, you need to be clear on who made the motion, who seconded, and any objections, and the action that was made from that agenda item. So that's why it's very important for you to make sure, as the communications officer, you're making very clear meeting minutes. And then with that, I'll pass it back over to Abba.
Awesome. Thank you, Cassandra. And then, so kind of like steering into Robert's Rules of Order, it can kind of go hand in hand with Brown Act. There's some like characteristics that do kind of seep over, but Robert's Rules of Order is basically parliamentary procedure for how you should direct your meetings. And so, although you aren't going to be chairing the DA most likely, it's definitely important to understand how to chair your meetings for your internal affairs committee meetings. And so your job is to ensure debate remains respectful so that everyone sort of receives the opportunity to speak because it is their right, and we want to ensure that these meetings are equitable. And as the chair, you should always remain impartial as well. So this means never participating in debate between the members of the meeting or dictating the direction of the conversation. You can consider establishing community agreements, which is something that the SSCCC does do at the statewide board of directors. So if you wanted an example on that, you definitely should be joining the statewide board of directors if you can, so you can kind of understand the process of it. So that would be a good place to look for an example. And then also you're in charge, so just make sure to rule fairly and also be strong. So we have 4 different types of motions. Firstly is the main motion. So these are the most common motions and they introduce business. And then we have secondary and subsidiary motions. So this usually refers to the motion on the table. And then privileged motions, which don't relate to the pending motion but are dealt with immediately. And lastly, we have incidental motions. So it's changing the way that a motion is being handled in that moment. You will definitely see, of course, your main motions and secondary and subsidiary motions quite a bit. But you know, definitely when you're in meetings, sort of listen to the motions that are being made and to try to tick off, you know, is this a main motion, incidental, privilege, or secondary or subsidiary motion? And then so we have steps to handle a motion. So step 1, the motion's moved. Step 2, the motion is seconded. And then if there is no second, then the motion dies there. But if there is a second, the chair restates the motion in step 3. However, the chair states the motion is how it's going to be handled. So you have to make sure that it is correct. And then if it isn't, bring that to the chair's attention. And step 4, the motion would be debated. And then the 5th step is the motion is put to a vote by the chair. So repeat the question and what each vote would mean, and make sure the motion is stated correctly. Motions can get pretty confusing, so definitely make sure to restate if you are the chair, so that you know the students understand what they're voting on. And then lastly, step 6, the motion result is announced by the chair. All right, that is the end of my brief Robert's Rules of Order, and I will pass it over to Fiona.
So we'll be going over the Canva portion. To access Canva, you would need your SSCCC email because we are under a pro account. You will have access to all the elements, the designs, the templates without the watermarks of Canva. So make sure that you always log in with your SSCCC account. In Canva, we do have the brand kit available for you. It'll be there, so whenever you need to design something, you don't have to look for it or look for the font colors. And we also have the pictures of the board members already there, so if you use them for a presentation, it's easy to find them under branding. And Canva will be your best friend. You can design anything, shirts, flyers, social media announcements, meeting announcements, newsletters, and so on. Next slide, please. So this is just a brief overview of our brand kit. You could access this online and also in Canva. So we have two logos. One is the official primary logo we have, and then the secondary, which we have in all of our colors. Below is their color palette. We have our primary one they can use, and then also the secondary one. So feel free to use those colors whenever you're creating any designs or any flyers. We want to make sure that we keep everything up to brand and like it looks like everything's from SSCCC. Our font also is Open Sans Bold, Open Sans Extra Bold. Please use this font only because it is ADA compliance. It's very easy to read for people and accessible. And then on the side is just a few tips and designs that go over to keep in mind when you're designing something. Make sure your designs are cohesive, consistent, make sure it's legible, make sure that whenever you do pictures, it's not rasterized and it's not pixelated, make sure all the colors balance together, and so on, yes. Next slide, please. And as I said, our brand kit is ADA compliance, Americans with Disability Act standards for accessible design. We just want to make sure that, all of our students are able to read it. And if you ever have a problem or feel like you want review for it, you can send it to either Jessica or I or Yvonne for review, just to make sure that you're it with the branding. This is an example of a flyer I made. I make sure to put all the designs, very for example, round was my theme, so I made sure that it's all round kind of like design overall. And you want to make sure that the title or the big part of the flyers is the title, and that's where you want the main focus to be, and then under is the information. You want to make sure that it's cohesive and easy to read and easy to navigate. You don't want your readers to feel like they don't know what they're reading or it's illegible. Right, next slide. And then Cassandra will go over the importance of newsletters.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, for the duties and responsibilities, as a communications officer, you are in charge of creating the region newsletter. So what this newsletter is we have an example on the slide of what that will look like. It's essentially a visually pleasing source of material for your region to use to be aware of what your region has been doing for the past month. And this is really where your creativity as a communications officer will come in hand. So as a communications officer, you have a lot of creative control when it comes to creating the newsletter. Some examples I've seen is you can incorporate new sections of maybe an SBA spotlight or an officer spotlight. I've also seen a section saved every month for resolutions and an update on where we've been on resolutions and our progress towards them. Those sort of examples of just trying to engage with the students who will be reading your region newsletter and using the newsletter as a source for everyone to be able to just see in one centralized place what the region has been doing and being able to stay in contact with what's going to be happening in the future months.
Yes, so the oh, sorry, can you go back? This time around, we have 4 new templates made by our student intern, Sean. He did such a great job creating 4 new templates for you all to use, and then it'll be accessible in Canva. Our approval process is within Canva. You can send an approval. I'll send it. I'll show an example after this. But you would create the design, and then in the little corner there'll be an approval that you would send to Jessica or I, and she'll review it. I would like 72 hour in advance that we could have, so that way we can review. If we need to make changes, we'll let you know, and then I'll be the one to post it on Action Network and on our website. We like for the goal to be the deadline third or fourth week of the month, if possible, for the following month. All right, let me share my screen real quick, Ava, and I'll show an example. All right, so when you go into Canva, this is what it'll look like. And you'll go under brand and then brand templates. And then you'll see we have quote templates, we have slideshow templates, we have Zoom templates, and also the newsletter. So you'd want to pick a newsletter, and then you pick use this brand template. And then all of this is here for you. Just fill it up. You can change it as much as you want, but try to stick with the brand. And if you want to have access to the brand, it's on the left-hand side. And then all the logos are here. And then we'll be adding more pictures down here below. Yeah, and then for the approval process, it's up here in this top right. Get approval, either to Jessica or the communications, which is me. And you just write a message, hey, I'm finalizing my newsletter. Can you please review it? I would like to get this posted by this time. And especially this is crucial when you have meetings coming up and you want to have it out beforehand and you want your readers to know. All right. Ava, you can go ahead and start sharing again. Okay. Instagram. Do you want to share, Cassandra, why Instagram is so important to us?
Yes, I can do that. So, talking about Instagram, I mentioned a while ago that as communications officer, you guys will be in charge of your guys' Instagram, your region's Instagram. So, the importance of, utilizing and really maximizing the platform you have with Instagram is, as we all may be aware, a lot of our constituency is on Instagram, not only our individual members, but also our SBAs and our colleges as well. So we want to make sure that you're not only focusing on creating a newsletter and taking meeting minutes, but also realizing the amount of impact you could have when you are utilizing the Instagram account for your region as well. So on the left here is an example of just what your Instagram page will look like. And it's very concise and there's a very clear theme with the goal, but you want to make sure, of course, all your social media is very appropriate and is in line with student advocacy. So some ideas of what you could be using to engage with people on Instagram is maybe having a quick 30-second interview with your regional affairs director and posting on Instagram. Or you could do something like, I don't know, like doing a quick tour of one of your SBAs and kind of highlighting one of your colleges that are in the region. Things like that would be helpful, and just making sure, again, you're utilizing that platform to engage with students and have them interested in what SSCCC does.
So in order for us to keep branding, within SSCCC, like I said before, it's very important to not change the profile picture. In the past, we've had different designs, but we want to make sure that we stick to the brand. And please do not change the password. I will schedule one-on-ones after this meeting with each one of you so you could have access to your account, because I have the authentic code to log in. And student interns and staff will have access to this. Sometimes, we go in just to pull data, or if we see a suspicious activity going on. And if you do see that, you can always reach out to us if you feel like, oh, I don't know who's logging in. Can you see who this is? And then for those folks who don't have a comms officer, please lean on to your student interns. They will be helping you with social media, Canva. They are trained on it and will get more training on it. So please lean on them if you ever need help, especially during GA and advocacy.
And also, like, even if you do have a comms officer or if you're a comms officer in here, we're definitely also like more than happy to help you out along the way on your first newsletter. So feel free to reach out to us.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, next. So me and Jessica have been working on a new content calendar template for us. We want you to be able to use it. It's a good resource. It helps us a lot to keep track of our like our own platforms. So we try to update it. This is like a good way when you do your meetings every month to go with your team or your region and then ask, hey, what should we be posting this month? What's important to us? What should we highlight? This is a good way to keep track of it and try to post weekly. I'll share my screen real quick and I'll show you the content calendar. So to access the content calendar, it'll be under the SSCCC 2024 drive, under internal committees, and then you should go to communications committee, and then you'll see each region. Oh, Abba, are you still sharing or am I sharing? Can you all see my screen? Okay, perfect, sorry. All right, so each region has its own content calendar. For example, region 1, it'll be in there, and this is what it'll look like. And I made sure to put all throughout the years already, so you don't have to put any of the months. And all you do is create a post here. And me and Jessica create a theme for every week, so it's not hard to find something to post. For example, student spotlight, I want to post about my RAD. So you put RAD, a caption here, and then also what you want to post in your stories. Stories are a very good way to repost also our own posts and also your own, and also like all the campuses around you, like all the SBAs, if they have any posters or flyers, you can repost it through stories, which is a good way to share. But this will be also your other best friend. And you can also link your designs here. If you want me or Jessica to review it, you can link it here, all your Canva designs, and we'll be able to see it. But we want to make sure that this is to help you keep accountable if you're posting. And we want to make it a goal to be able to post 2 to 3 times a week at least, and if not more. But this is, ours look like this. So we want you to be able to fill it out a month in advance. That way you're not worrying. And you can always reach out to your student interns for help on how to fill this out, or Jessica and I.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk just a little bit about best practices. So best practices as the communications officer is overall, you want to make sure you stick to these 3 different tenets. First off, the branding. As Fiona talked about earlier, we have a brand kit, so you want to make sure you're in line with that and make sure it's just in line so that people can see that the content you're posting is within SSCCC and they'll be able to associate our branding kit amongst all the regions. And also just make sure you're engaging with your followers. Like I said earlier, when talking about the Instagram, think about creative marketing campaigns and really utilize the content calendar if you want to win over. And again, captions, you don't want to just be very plain and be like, here's an interview from our rad. You want to be creative, try to get engagement up. Ask a question and have them put it in the comment section, things like that. And just make sure, again, you have the overall mindset of engaging with your followers and engaging with those of which who are your constituency.
Next slide. All right, and hashtags is also a great way to add to your caption. There's a lot of hashtags. Just make sure beforehand you check what's in the hashtag. Sometimes, it can be appropriate. So you want to make sure you're putting the right hashtags on there because we have constituents looking at our Instagram post. Another way to also show, to add to your caption is geolocations. If you're on a campus and you're showing a tour, make sure to add San Jose City College. This is where I'm at. That way, if people want to visit, they can access the address easily there and then, and you could also see other people's posts and then be within that, the posts of other people under that college. Number 5, you want to stay consistent. Oh, sorry. Stay consistent. Like I said, make sure you're posting 2 to 3 times a week. If that's not possible, at least try to post once a week beginning, in August. I know it's kind of hard to get into the groove, but if you need help, please lean on us. We are here to help you. And content, Cassandra went over it, meetings, campuses, important news, newsletters, reminders, holidays. Try not to post too much, I would say a lot of flyers, because that tends to become boring. A lot of people do a lot of videos now or a lot of pictures, and then that's what gets more engagement. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to we'll have a Q&A at the end, and you can also contact Jessica and I. And make sure to follow us.
All right, so now it's going to be a time for questions. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and then we will recognize you and allow you to unmute. Any questions? All right. Well, if you do think of any questions, then again, please feel free to reach out to either Fiona or Jessica. And also, please know that as a communications officer, you can also lean on your student intern for your region, as they will also have all of these resources that they can help support you with. So just know you have a support system, and you're never alone when it comes to your role in SSCCC. So if my other presenters don't have anything additional to add, then, oh, actually, I'll recognize Labui. Ask you to unmute. All right.
Hello. Forgive me for not turning on my camera. I am working with a school's computer and the camera won't turn on. So I am Latasha Bouet. Most of you may know me as Tosh, and I'm at out of Region 8 at Mount Sac College. And my question is just basically pretty brief. I am wondering if this slideshow will be sent to us so that way we can have notes to kind of reflect back on for the training, and that's the end of my questions for today.
Yeah, of
Yes.
course. So
Oh, go ahead.
That's a good question. So yes, the PowerPoint and this recording will be sent out to everyone after the meeting once the recording is cleaned up. So you will be able to reference the slides we used today throughout your term. So it will be sent to you.
Thank you so much.
And Abba, go ahead.
And then Abba.
There we go. Sorry. I just also wanted to add that if you do not have an intern within your region, you are assigned an intern from outside of your region. So feel free to reach out to Dr. Adams or Jessica to sort of understand who the intern is for your particular region. Although we are trying to fill all the spots for the regions right now. I just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Abba. Any more questions? All right. Well, please keep a lookout for your email. I'll be sending a when to meet so I can give you access to your Instagram account. And if you have any other questions or want to go over anything, we could talk about it then. But yes, thank you everyone for coming. All right, bye.